Humanity is on the cusp of a colossal shift in understanding, one that will completely rewrite our relationship with reality itself. I'm Leanne Rose, psychotherapist, advisor to some of the world's most influential leaders, and the channel for a structural intelligence known as the Galayla Collective. On this podcast, we explore what becomes possible when consciousness is understood not as a byproduct of the brain, but as the fundamental substance of the universe itself, capable of completely reshaping the material world we live in. Welcome to Consciousness First. Hello, my loves. Welcome back. So in today's episode, the Galayla Collective are going to answer a huge question that we hear from so many people that come to play with us. And that question is, what is my soul purpose? What is my reason for being alive? So one of the most powerful pieces about this is that most people start this question from a really individualized perspective. We come at life believing, if, we've had some of that spiritual background stuff, we come at life believing that there is this written blueprint, a written destiny of what life is supposed to look like for us. That there is this life path, this higher purpose that we are supposed to be moving through. And the main question that I got asked in the very early days when I was channeling one-on-one with people was that they really wanted to know what their life path was. Am I on the right path? Am I on the right path? And so today, the Galayla Collective are going to show you why that is not the question you should be asking. And why this question is the most powerful bridge builder into this new way of doing life, especially if you've been coming at life from a spiritual perspective. So let's dive in. Hello, dear souls. So, one of our favorite topics. What is my soul purpose? Now, as Gal mentioned, most individuals look at this as if it is a predestined path that source has placed within you, that God has placed within you, and that you simply need to find the clues written along the way. Now, there is some truth in this, dear souls, but it is not in the way that many individuals first imagine it. Most individuals think this is a predestined piece of information that they were coded in from very little. And again, some element of truth within this. But we are going to say something now that might blow your brain. And that is that there is no predestined path in the stars for you as an individual other than to awaken to the truth that you are consciousness itself. Once you reclaim that truth, you become aware of the fact that your soul purpose is your decision. So here is the way that most people engage with this question. They engage with retreats, they engage with journaling, maybe they are a little bit more third-dimensionally minded and they engage with goal setting and action planning. And what is my 5-year plan? All of these things are still very relevant, very powerful, and very beautiful. However, those who are asking this question, what is my soul purpose, are actually looking for something so much bigger than an individual soul path. For when you are asking this question, what you are fundamentally asking is, what is the purpose for my beingness? What is the purpose of life? What is the ultimate way that I can maximize life itself. How can I find my highest joy and my highest expression, my highest wealth, my highest levels of freedom, intimacy, impact, joy? How do I find all those things? And the core answer to this question, dear one, is that you awaken to the truth that you are consciousness. That is your core reason for being. It is to awaken to the truth that you are the very fabric of reality itself. Now, not all individuals are coded to wake up to this truth. There is an important aspect of how our wonderful third dimensional playground is crafted and created, which means that some individuals will never move away from third dimensional set point and will only ever want to do life at third dimensional level. And that is powerful and incredible and so deeply in service to those who want to go even bigger. Because this actually allows the set point that keeps our illusionary game going. There is enough of those third dimensional anchor points that allow it, the structures of our playground, to exist. But what is important for you to know is that if you are asking this question, what you are actually looking for, dear ones, is not the pre-written path in the stars, for the only pre-written path in the stars is to awaken to the truth that you are source itself, that you are the source of reality itself, that you are the source of life itself, that you are energy in its purest form. Once you awaken to this truth, what you begin to then recognize is that reality is created from you. Reality is you. And the question then becomes, how do I leverage my focus, my ability to harness the fact that I am the fabric of reality? How do I direct my essence to create the reality I desire? How do I have fun in this game that I have created for myself as consciousness? Now let us look at how this plays out. Many individuals are asking, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? They outsource their power to a god or spirit guides or the universe, source. Some power that is seemingly outside of the self, that supposedly has all the answers. But have you ever noticed how lost and stuck you become when this is what you are doing? For reality is simply the lived expression of the internal set point you are focused in. And when you are in this set point of seeking, you are lost, and therefore you create a reality in which you experience being lost. What your energetic system is actually craving from you at this point, dear one, is direction. But you keep looking outside of yourself for that direction. And so you keep going around in circles and circles and circles, never quite getting where you want to be, wondering when this healing hamster wheel cycle will finish. Because you are constantly outsourcing your power. You are throwing your energy away, instead of reconnecting to the truth that life is an extension of you. And once you choose a direction you wish to move in, life will rearrange to support you. But because you have not yet anchored in to the truth that you are the universe, you are not just in relationship with the universe, with God, with source, with energy, with consciousness, you are those things. You are the very source of reality itself. And when you are ready to take ownership of this truth, when you are ready to direct your consciousness, to direct your energy at this level, then you will begin to see the momentum that you are desiring to see. But only when you begin to connect with this truth, that you are the creator of your reality, that you are in charge of your destiny, that you are the master coder of your life. Now we are going to allow the girl to come through and share a little of her experience putting this into practice in the early days, before she even began to recognize that she was a channel. These were the early days where we were feeding her information she did not even realize where it was coming from. Many of you are at this point right now. Yourself as source is always speaking to you, dear ones. And you sometimes feel as if it is your own thoughts, because this is how source communicates. It communicates through you because it is you, dear ones. We will talk in an episode later on in this season about the demonization of the ego in spiritual circles and how this has become detrimental to your growth. But for now, let us bring to our girl to speak of her experience with this in the early days in a way that will connect some of these dots for some of you moving through this process. Oodles of love from us. Goodbye for now. Okay, my loves. So, what they're guiding me to share with you today is my experience with transmuting my experience of depression in the early days. So, when I was younger, and I'm not sure how old I was at this point, but it was before I started my business, so well over 4 years ago, I really struggled with low mood, suicidal thoughts, not wanting to be here. And I fit all the symptoms for depression, was scored under a PHQ-9 and was ticking all those boxes. But at this time, I was also deeply in touch with my own journey with consciousness. Now, I wasn't a full-blown express trance channel at this point, but pursuing my connection to source has always been at the heart of my journey. Right from when I was around 14, 15 years old. And what I was really beginning to learn was the importance of identity in all of this. And I was really understanding more and more that our internal reality creates our external world. Now, obviously, as a mental health professional, I'm also highly aware of how we treat and manage depression. And what was becoming glaringly obvious to me was how much mental health treatment reinforced the identity of somebody with depression. And as I began to play with these concepts of internal reality creates external world, and reality is responding to who I believe myself to be, I started to connect this with my struggle with depression. And at the time, I was moving through my interpersonal psychotherapy training, and so depression was right at the heart of what I was doing with my patients day in, day out. And I was learning from professors in these evidence-based practices that are recommended by our highest guidelines. And right at the heart of these talking therapies was the identity of somebody with depression. And the treatment itself kept reinforcing the idea that this person's brain was broken. And I started to get really mad, because one thing that became so colossally clear to me as these pieces were unfolding and everything was dropping in was that my trust in myself had been fundamentally shattered from being in mental health services, both as a practitioner and a patient. Because what I was really beginning to recognize is that our mental health services are so pathology focused. They are so invested in us identifying as somebody with pathology. the message that we are unintentionally giving our patients is that their brain is fundamentally broken and that they cannot trust themselves. And I know this because I walked that journey. I was a mental health patient. So I've seen both sides of this, and I see how those treatment plans actually just accidentally reinforce this. We tell patients it's highly likely that depression is going to come back. Now, I am somebody that's lived with the devastation of that. It's highly likely that depression is going to come back for me, and so I can't trust myself. This is why I didn't start my business for many years, because I thought that I couldn't trust myself to actually thrive as a human being. And then one day it all clicked. And I suddenly realized, what if I just allow myself to engage with the idea that I'm not somebody with depression? Now, how this links back to what the Galayla Collective were talking about is that this is the first time I began to realize that I wasn't looking for some outside source to fix me, to heal me, to give me some information. And I was actually beginning to leverage my own consciousness, to direct my own energy into the reality that I actually wanted to create. This was my first real experience of putting this work into practice without even realizing that that's what I was doing. Actually, there was a time when I was younger and I did this to make sure that I got an A in maths, but that's the story for another day. So I began to experiment with this idea of, what if I'm somebody that isn't depressed? What if I simply decide to engage with an identity that isn't depressed? If internal reality creates external world, then I should be able to influence what is happening inside of me. And so that's what I did. Day in, day out, I just started to move gently from this new perspective. If I was somebody that wasn't depressed today, what would I do differently? And it started with simple things like I would brush my teeth in the morning, or I would get dressed, or I would brush my hair. Really simple things. To then extending into, well, I wouldn't be putting off the things that I'm procrastinating around that are actually making me feel so much pressure. To eventually being, well, then I would start my own company and I would do the work that I actually want to do in the world. Now, these were tiny, tiny baby steps, but what that showed me was that I have the ability to completely transform my life from the inside out. Now, how this threads back to the soul purpose piece that the Galayla Collective were talking about is that I was one of those individuals that was asking that question before this point in my journey, before the depression element really came online in a big, big way. I was asking, what is my soul purpose? What is the path that I'm supposed to be on? And what I now know, what I can now see from that time in my life, if nothing exists outside of this now moment, which is a fundamental concept of consciousness first, the energetic set point I was resonating at that time was that I am desperately seeking something other than this now moment. I am lost. I am without direction. I am seeking support from any avenue I can find. And at that time, I was pouring through personal development books like my life depended on it. Engaging with all kinds of different personal development pieces to keep myself going, to keep myself alive at that point. That was how, insane this piece got for me. And where many people find themselves in this part of their evolution is what we call the dark night of the soul. Now, I saw so many individuals come through my door that were labeled with depression, that were actually experiencing a spiritual crisis, what we call the dark night of the soul, where we're beginning to shatter our old ways of looking at the world and we're beginning to seek more. We're beginning to go bigger. But at that point in our evolution, we are still outsourcing our power to something that feels bigger than us, as opposed to remembering that that thing that is bigger than us that we are seeking is not out there. It's in here. It's actually the answer to the question, who am I? And that, again, was a fundamental question. When we see so many of these beautiful people that go on these spiritual pilgrimages to go and find themselves. But ultimately, the answer is, you are consciousness experiencing itself from infinite angles. And when you have the answer to that question, it's like, well, what's next? What's next is learning to leverage that, is learning to actually play in that, to embody it and realize the truth of what that actually means, which is that you really and truly are the creator of your reality. And when you can embody the truth that reality is an extension of you, that's when real life magic starts happening. That's when life fundamentally transforms. But the magic of it is that you recognize you are the one in the driver's seat. This isn't just magic happening to you. It is life flowing from you. And the more conscious awareness you bring to that truth, the more ability you have to consciously direct that process, the more ability you have to actually shape your reality. So, if you are somebody that's finding yourself asking that question repeatedly over and over again, what's my soul purpose? What's my soul purpose? What am I here to do? What am I uniquely coded for? What I would suggest that you start with is this idea of, what if who I am is so much bigger than what I have allowed myself to believe? What if I literally am consciousness itself experiencing itself from all angles? When that is my perspective, there's now not this idea of where you should be. There is only where you want to be. Where do you want to play? It completely changes the game. Now, I'm not saying that some of you are going to be like, yeah, I'm ready, let's do this. Some of you are going to go through that journey. We call this the fifth dimensional development, 5D stuff. You hear a lot of this in spiritual circles of 5D, new earth, we're light workers here to change the planet. And all of that is super juicy stuff to play in. Maybe you'll go and play with some of your past lives. Maybe you'll go and play with, what starseed heritage am I connected to? Am I connected to the Pleiadians or the Lyrians or what have you? None of that is wrong. It's all super juicy. But where it's all eventually moving you into is this true connection to your ultimate self, which is consciousness, experiencing itself from all forms. And many of us are moving through these places really rapidly now. And so the fifth dimensional stuff, the 5D stuff is no longer working for us and it feels flat. If this is you, this is the level of reality creation you're actually being called into. And it's not that the older things aren't working anymore. It's that you're being called deeper into a wider aspect of your true self. So next time you're asking the question, what is my soul purpose? Connect with the idea that you already know what your soul purpose is. I am consciousness, exploring itself from all angles. So what do I actually want to do? And how can I actually start to engage with the fact that the only thing I need to do to create the life I want is to learn how to harness and direct my own consciousness. The minute you start asking yourself that question, your own system is going to flood you with so much juicy information that's going to get you to where you want to be. All right, my loves, we're going to close this one here. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening, my loves. The GC would love to share this information as far and wide as possible. So if you leave us a review and tag us on social media, we would love to give you access to one of our favorite immersive experiences. This is a huge favorite amongst our clients, and it's been at the heart of many of our most insane client results, and my own, to be honest. You can find out more about that in the show notes below. Oodles of love. We'll see you next time.